This is the beginning of my Go Gateway house. This is like a school of experience. This is how I came to create Ken Up, Ken Down. This is a package experience that I got from interviewing people in the DMV area and also people in the virtual world. So that is artists, creatives, locals, professionals, students. This is before and during COVID. Here are their stories, experiences, and perspectives. We got Khalees in the building.
Hey guys.
What's up? What's your vibe right now?
I'm really cooling, very much in my big Birkin. If it ain't about the money, I don't really want to talk. That's just where I'm at right now because I feel like that's where we should all be at. It's quarantine. You don't have nothing else to do. Focus on you, get to your bag, however it is that you want to get to it. And yeah, that's just pretty much it.
So you still seeing success throughout the quarantine?
Definitely. You have to adapt to your environment. For sure. Survival of the fittest.
Yeah. You've had time to like figure out all your shit and
For sure. I feel like the one excuse that people used to always have, like, oh, I don't have enough time. Nobody can use that excuse anymore, and that's like the number one excuse. So it's just like, if you're not achieving all it is that you want to, you're probably just wasting time.
yeah.
Not
So
focused.
so far in life and your experiences, what would you say is your purpose?
It's funny because I've been having like a lot of conversations about purpose. But personally, I feel like my purpose is really tied into perspective. Like, I have I've had the dilemma, like, pretty much, I feel like, all throughout my life where I've met, like, so many different people, but, like, I don't think let me not say that. The people I've resonated with the most have always been, like, people who are kind of, like-minded like myself, where it's just, like, we understand that not everything is black and white. It is always gray area, and it really is beyond 50 shades of gray, so it's just, like, it's all about the specific situation and what the aspects are. But I've also recently been able to meet, like, I feel like for the first time, like, people who genuinely think in black and white and generally feel like it is or it isn't, and there's no excuse. But I feel like that's just something I'm really, like, trying to challenge because nothing is black and white in every situation. Everybody's situation is different. And with how many different people there are, there's no way it could just only be black and white.
Well, the world right now has become black and white, like
Pretty much.
America especially,
Mm-hmm.
So with everything that's happening, you still see the gray area.
For sure.
Okay.
Because in the same way, like, I mean, people are quick to say, oh, every black person's not dumb, every white person's not racist. That's all gray area. You get what I'm saying? So we're all products of our environment. So at the end of the day, I might be a black person who may act more white than a white person that you have ever met. And you might see a black person that may act more black than, like, the most hood person you know. But in reality, like, we're all just products of our environment. So it's always some gray area. And until we really, like, open our perspective to include that, we're never going to, in essence, be equal because we're not, like, making it a level playing field. It's already stereotypes and judgments just based off skin color.
What sounds more true to you? We are all the products of our environment, or we are all the products of our decisions?
I feel like both are in a sense true, but I feel like the older you get, the more it comes down to we're all a product of our decisions. Because at the end of the day, somebody who grew up poor like their whole life can still become a billionaire. Or they're definitely not a product of their environment but at the same time, they've made decisions based off that environment. Mm-hmm. They've seen a certain behavior, seen what leads to one outcome. So if you want a different outcome, you have to change something up. You have to, like, actually do something different.
Yeah. Have you ever been addicted to anything, whether it be in a substance or a way of life that it was very hard to shake off?
Definitely. I feel like even to this day, one of the main things, I don't want to say I battle with it now, but it's something I'm very aware of now. Mm-hmm. Because at a certain point, I definitely was addicted to, like, pretty much just self-image and how I was viewed based off other people, like what their first impressions were, what do they actually think of me versus what's really being said to me. And I feel like that manifested, like, in a lot of ways in my life because, I mean, I was an athlete, got to a certain point where it's just like, stuff with the coach. and oh, like, you know, for your event, you're a little bit too heavy, and it's just like, okay, like I'm super self-aware. And of course that manifests in some unhealthy ways, especially when you are young, going through puberty and all of that. So I definitely battled with like a little bit of anorexia and bulimia, but at the time I refused to believe that. But now being able to look back and being able to like recall on like loved ones being able to say certain things to me, pretty much just walking on eggshells around me because they knew I didn't want to hear those words. Mm-hmm. But definitely now, just with self-analyzation and just like retrospect, definitely realized, you know, it's definitely was obsessed with self-image. And I had to go through a process of like really just like forgetting about it completely to get to the point where even now where I'm at was just like self-image still plays a lot into this era of me trying to get on my influencer stuff and like just pretty much like taking advantage of the platform that pretty much just came regardless. So definitely now it's just more so being aware of it and actually making good use of it instead of letting it affect like my actual daily life and like, oh, like what do people think of me? But no, like I'm gonna present to you my best self, so you can at least make an informed decision rather than me be scared of like, oh, people are gonna judge me because of this, people are gonna judge me because of that. But no, like I'd rather just be my true authentic self. So whether judgment comes or not, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. What was your family dynamics like growing up?
Definitely, I wouldn't say my father's not in my life, but I definitely was raised in a single parent household with my pretty much just another sibling, like my older brother. So pretty much it was just us, like pretty much us three. But like my brother is a bit older than me, definitely a bit older than me. So he hit that stage where he wasn't in the house as much a long time before me. So I feel like it really ended up being like me and my mom like a lot, to be honest. It was really just like me and her. Like her friends would always have this like little nickname where they would just call me her purse. Like I was just her handbag. Like everywhere you saw her, I was like right behind, right in front, just not too far.
Yeah. Did you have like father figures though?
Definitely. Like, I mean, my father was definitely still a father figure. Definitely like somebody I looked up to, still look up to this day. The older I get, the more I see similarities between us, to be honest, because it's just like, wow, like I'm really like evolving, like because growing up it's just like, oh, you're your mom's twin. Yeah. Even to this day, my friends.
So he was still around.
Definitely still around, but in terms of father figures, definitely had like my uncle, which is pretty much my mom's best friend. Like they like have been like just like this from day one. All the childhood stories, it's always been both of them. So definitely, and she has also had friends like that I grew up around that pretty much like our family. They're no less blood than anybody else. But
have you forgiven your parents for anything, you know, that happened when you were growing up that you held against them, or is that something that you don't think about? Or
oh no, most definitely, like definitely, I'm very big on forgiveness, and anybody who's close to me will pretty much know like I really have been through a lot, and it just, I'm not big on really, I don't want to say complaining, but like really, not to say I don't speak on it, but I'm not big on complaining. I'm more so like, will speak on if somebody brings up an issue and it's something I resonate with, I'll more so be like, okay, like, you know, I actually did encounter something like that, and this is like pretty much what I learned from it, and this is how I move. So maybe that can help you. But I feel like you cannot move forward without forgiveness. And just like how with any therapist, you go see a psychiatrist, you know, you want to talk about your mental health. One of the first things anybody will ask you is about your childhood experiences, your relationship with your parents. And I feel like that's one of the major things that I feel like, especially in the Black community, we don't pay attention to. Pretty much just like, we don't have a lot of the serious conversations or hard conversations that need to be had because they may be awkward or because of just authority figures with just our parents. Which just like, I mean, at the end of the day, at some point you're going to get old enough where you do just need to sit down and have like an adult conversation and just be like, you know, this is how I felt. This is how what happened made me feel. And just have like an open conversation, very candid conversations, understand their part, because nothing is like just one-sided. In the same way, it's just like a lot of gray area. You may have to forgive your parents for a lot of things, but in the same time, you also have to be mindful of the fact that sometimes you might have been the first child. You know, your parents have their own lives too, and sometimes it may have been a hard situation. They might have been going through a lot, and that played into like how they reacted to whatever your situation was. But definitely feel like the older you get, you definitely should try and like definitely facilitate that conversation with your parents, just to like, you know, because it definitely, I feel like, seeps into all of your relationships. Like it will seep into everything that you do, like everything. Yeah. So definitely have to be mindful of that.
You know, there's some parents that sometimes they don't be trying to hear it.
and
so
no.
how have your parents received, you know, those conversations if you had it with them?
I feel like it's just like how I say nothing is black and white, it's all gray area. I feel like it will always be a different shade of gray. Everybody's parents are different. My parents specifically, my mom is Jamaican, very Caribbean, grew up. My grandpa was a pastor, so it was just like, you know, very much grew up in a Christian household. So it was certain things in my lifestyle from an early on stage we just disagreed on. Like it was just like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was a disagreement. But on my side of it, as it comes to this forgiveness, where I say you have to be mindful of the action you took place to, it's a lot of things that I did not speak about. It's a lot of things that I went through that I dealt with on my own. So in a sense, as much as I would want to be sometimes like, oh, well, you should have known, oh, there were signs of this and a third, I also was very keen on trying to hide every sign that there was. So you have to also take some self-responsibility. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, just it's gray area. Not every parent is gonna be wanting to sit down and like listen to what you have to say, no matter how old you get. It's always some parents that just probably won't get to that point. But I feel like when it comes to a situation like that, you just always have to stay open-minded. Like, you get what I'm saying? Always leave the floor open for conversation, even if it's not at that point. You may never know. It might be years and years later on that it's just like, okay, we can have, like, let's talk about this. It's just like, you know, just always leave that area for the conversation to happen if it does come up. Yeah. You know, you don't want to just like, oh, they want to have the conversation now, so whatever, and I'm just going to cut them out of my life, whatever the case may be. Definitely don't want to burn bridges, especially not with your parents, not situations like that, over things that can be spoken about eventually. You get what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, we're never going to talk about this. Like,
eventually, that's the key word. Like, I'm also African, and you got to wait till they old.
Yeah, you honestly do. Like, it's a lot of things I've wanted to talk to my mom about. It's just like, even my friends, I tell them, like, I would have never thought the day would have came that my mom would, like, mention this around me. Like, what? Yeah. And it's just like, I'll be baffled in the moment, because just like, okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're here now. Okay, so we can talk about this. Okay. Yeah. It's just like an adjustment for both of y'all.
Yeah. So. You made a good point. It's like being, you spoke about, it could be the fact that you were first child, and it's like they give you all they know. You know, they show you all that they can, what they have seen from their parents. So I think that's important, you know, like for us to grow up and understand that sometimes our parents, they knew no better. You know what I mean?
And then sometimes there's resentment that comes into that, like just with like multiple siblings, where it's just like, okay, you were more so her first child that she raised. I came a long time after that. So, you know, it's just like certain things that you may have dealt with that I may not necessarily have to deal with. And it's just like that barrier that may sometimes come between siblings, where it's just like, oh, you're the favorite. But it's just like, not necessarily. It's just a matter of we both have different personalities. And in a sense, I may have adapted to what she prefers to be the reaction, where I just don't speak. I just listen. And it's like, okay, you're right. And then after you've said everything you have to say, then I'll be like, okay, well, this is why I did what I did, more so than like rebutting everything that you say. Yeah. Because you kind of just have to learn your parents. Like, at the end of the day, like, just like how they have to learn you and you want them to learn everything about you, you have to also be willing to accept them for how their environment as well. Like, they were products of their environments.
What's the worst abuse you ever experienced, if you could share, if there's any?
Abuse. Wow. That's like a very interesting topic. I wouldn't say like there was like one experience that was like maybe worse than all the others. I really would just like compile them and pretty much say just like definitely growing up went through like I would say a series of like just sexual abuse or just like different like just abuse that was just like sexually and emotionally. And I feel like it was more so that the part that really affected me the most, and I feel like still affects me to this day, was that it was always by either people who I trusted or people who were supposed to be protectors or people who were just supposed to be people who I thought I could trust or just like never would have thought that would have been the case. And then when the situations would happen, it was just more so not being able, not, I don't want to say not being able to speak about it, but just more so the personal decision, which tends to be like oftentimes the first action where you don't really want to tell anybody, you want to just keep it to yourself and get over it. But eventually gets to the point where you can't get over it until you talk about it. You can't get over, you can't forgive, you can't move on, you can't until you get to a point where you're able to actually speak on something that happened and address it. And that just acknowledge the fact that it even happened, it definitely is something that like will carry on with you. So definitely I would say just that and its effect on pretty much my self-image and just like my self-worth, because definitely the self-love journey it's been a journey. It's really been a journey. And I feel like it's some people who can speak to it, but it's really not that many that can. And that's something that I'm like very adamant. I really want to get to speak on my platform a lot about, like just pretty much talking about like the harder conversations, like the conversations that no one wants to have.
Yeah.
It's just like after getting through that healing process, it's just like that's all I want to do to get other people to get to that point where it's just like, speaking about it will only help you. Like, it's the first time you speak about it, you will cry. You might only cry. You might barely be able to get any words out, but it's a start. And you feel me? Like you will get to a certain point where you're able to just help other people. Like, and for me, even though those were like some of the worst moments of my life where it's just like it still plays a part in like just how I move today, how I act, just trust issues, all of that. I would be lying if I would sit here and be like, I have not seen the reason why that had happened. I haven't seen what I've been able to help somebody else with based off what has happened to me. And that, in a sense, once you get to the point where you just like start looking at everything with open eyes, you kind of, in a sense, I don't want to say you can gain an appreciation for it, because that might just be hurtful to somebody else who isn't at that stage yet. But it's just all the work in progress. Like,
I mean,
definitely.
Like, I would say, most of the women that I've dated, that I've talked to, have been a victim of some type of sexual abuse or sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only imagine how many women are walking around and having that affect them.
And honestly, this COVID, this is something that I'm actually very, very passionate about.
Okay.
Because this is something that is like really huge in the Caribbean. Like even since like COVID, like sexual assault like between the ages of, I believe, 3 and 12 like have gone up 70%, like just in Jamaica, just since COVID. So it's just like for somebody who has experienced that, just to like know already, like without a doubt in your mind, that there are children that are between the ages of 3 and 12 that are experiencing this even more because they're not being able to go to school because of COVID. It's just like, oh my God, wear a mask. Like, people are living in situations that they can't necessarily get out of, and there's no way to get out of it, but because people are so selfish, it's like people don't really think of like the bigger picture. It's just like, okay, yeah, you can go out and you don't have to have a mask or whatever the case may be, but it's just like it's other people's lives that are being affected, not just by COVID, but it's just like, what else is that impacting? What else like are you really triggering that you're not really paying attention to?
Yeah. So what's been some of your best ways or forms of healing?
I feel like for me, I tend to do a lot of self-analyzation. And I feel like for me, the more I'm aware of what I did and what actions I may have feel that I played towards the situation, the more I'm able to really like accept like, okay, somebody else did something wrong in this situation, but am I completely blameless? And that's not to say like, okay, like, oh, but it's just something that tends to help me get along with it and just helps me to move forward in a sense, because personally it's just like I can talk about a lot of things. Like, and for me, like, I feel like talking about it is the first step. And when it comes to healing, number one, you have to forgive. Like, that's, I feel like, the number one. And I feel like that's the hardest step that it takes place. But with forgiving, you have to, one, acknowledge that, okay, this did happen. Like, you feel me? It's a lot of situations where it's just like, you can't start to heal because you never even get to the point where you're just like, okay, yeah, this did happen to me. Like, that happened and I was hurt by it. And it's something that still affects me to this day. So what do I do next? Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, who hurt me? Like, whatever the case may be, like, is forgiveness for them? Definitely not. Like, forgiveness is for you. Like, forgiveness is you letting off the burden of yourself. Like, for people who aren't spiritual, whatever the case may be, I am, you know, God is love. Like, at the end of the day, if I love you, regardless, like, if you have hate in your heart, like, it's literally said in the Bible, if you have hate in your heart, like, you don't know God. You don't know what God is. You don't know who he is, because he's all love, and that's just literally what it is. So for me, it's just like, regardless of, the best way I can put it is, like, for me, and I know, like, I technically have, like, the hardest way to put it, but I'm, like, an empath at heart. Like, I just feel anything that anybody else feels. If you're around me and you feel something, guaranteed that I'm going to feel it, and I will, like, express that to you, and, like, I will feel it with you. Yeah. So for me, it's just, like, it's easy for me to put myself on the other side of the situation. So even if something bad has happened to me and I have my effects from it, almost, like, initially my first thought is, like, well, why would you do this? What happened to you that made you feel like this is something that was okay for you to do? Was this done to you? Like, you get what I'm saying? So it's, like, almost like I start rationalizing and, like, just kind of, like, trying to figure out, okay, well, what got you to this point where that you generally feel like this is okay? And then for me, it's just like, okay, like, getting to the point where it's just like, okay, I have my life, and yeah, this has affected me, but what affected you to get you to this point? I may not know what that is, but because I don't know what that is, I'm just going to give you the benefit of the doubt and just be like, you know what? I hope that you don't do this to somebody else. Like, I'm going to forgive you, and hopefully just me forgiving you allows you to question, like, okay, well, wow, like, clearly I hurt this person, but, like, she forgave me. Yeah. Like, so sometimes, and then that just kind of sparks, like, self-analyzation in somebody else. Like, if you analyze yourself and just are able to, like, give that unwavering love to somebody else, it oftentimes can do nothing else but multiply. Because they're just forced to, like, internally look, well, wow, like, I know I hurt this person, but, like, if they can really, like, find in their heart to, like, really be okay with me and be comfortable with me, like, okay, now maybe I need to, like, really look into myself and, like, not do this to somebody else.
How does that, you know, impact your overall, like, outlook on men? Because I can only imagine, you know, some women just end up hating the whole entire generation of men, you know? Mm-hmm. So do you battle with that ever, or?
I feel like my situation with the man is, like, definitely, like, entangled with my experiences, because personally, like, growing up, I mean, with my sexuality, it's wavered in a sense of, like, what I would want to label it as. So it's just, like, at a certain point, I mean, I did think that I was gay. Then at a certain point, I was like, okay, maybe I'm bisexual. And then now I've gotten to the point where I've, like, clearly realized, like, I'm just pansexual, and that's just what it is. So for me, gender identity and, like, pretty much how you, like, present that, regardless to that, has never really been too much an issue for me. Mm-hmm. But I guess I would just say, men. Especially black men. I speak on this so much where I just feel like black women give so, and it's just like, it's one of those situations where it's only focused on when it's just like, oh, niggas ain't shit, niggas ain't this, niggas ain't that. But it's just like, okay, we say that towards, look at how the majority of black men treat black women. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like, for the amount of times that we say, oh, niggas ain't shit, niggas ain't that, it is nothing in comparison to what a black man will fix his mouth to say about black women. Nothing in comparison. In my opinion, it's fairly, like, nice. Like, we're being very kind by just saying, you know, niggas ain't shit. And that's just that. Because at the end of the day, especially in the times we're living in now, you have black women on the streets, getting shot, getting rubber bullets, getting their teeth knocked out, all this for the sake of black men are dying in the streets.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, just on Twitter, a black girl gets a Tesla and it's just like, oh, you could have never gotten that on your own. Like, oh, you could have never did this. Like, oh, it's just like, wow, like, we tried to put y'all on such a pedestal. It's just like, oh, black men, black love, black this, like that. And the first chance, I don't want to say all, but the first chance the majority of the people who are on social media will say, it's just like, oh, like, black women are gold diggers, black women are this, black women are this, black women are that, angry black woman, angry black this. It's just like, this angry black woman is angry on your behalf. And you can't even respect that. So it's just like, how does that respect, like, be reciprocated if it's just like, we try to give y'all so much respect, but then it's just like, it's just met with disrespect. And then it's just like, okay, all right, fine, niggas ain't shit. And then it's just like, oh, well, this is why we do this and the third, but no.
Do you think, like, if it was Megan that shot Tory Lanez, there would have been more of a negative response from, like,
definitely,
social media?
No doubt. It would have been like, oh, she crazy. Oh, he probably did this and the third, and she just mad. But
and allegedly, because we don't know who shot.
Because allegedly, but it's just like, oh, she got shot in the foot. Oh, it's a joke. How is that funny? Like, how is somebody getting shot funny? How is somebody being, like, set back in terms of their career and being able to work funny? And on top of that, in a relationship based off, like, nobody knows exactly what happened. But at the end of the day, these are two people who we know to be friends. Two people who like, love their relationship. And it's just like, she gets shot in the foot, and it's a joke now.
Let me ask you this.
But if he got shot in the foot,
yeah,
it would not be a joke. It'd be like, oh, like, why would you do that? You're so crazy. Like, you're an angry black woman. Like, what could he possibly have done for you to do that?
Let me ask you this, because I made there was a post that I posted. It actually went crazy, like, the views were crazy in the comments, So it was these 4 black men who were given reasons why they don't date black women. And I think a majority of them were saying that when they were growing up, because of how they acted and how different they were, a lot of black women were like, you don't have swag, you're corny, you're a cornball. So they didn't fuck with them. So that kind of made them step outside of their community. I don't think that's enough for you to step outside of your community and date white women. But it happened to these guys, right? And in the comment section, some black women would just come in and be like, yeah, they weak ass niggas. Like, and I'm just like, yo, this is what they kind of talking about, But as a black woman, have you seen, like, kind of like, because one girl also made a comment, like, there is an art of talking to a black woman. And I was like, yo, what the hell does that mean? Like, so I'm supposed to talk to a black woman a certain way because she's a black woman? You know what I mean? As opposed to just talking to humans how, just talking to humans in general, Do you think some black women have also boxed in black men and kind of, like, perpetuated how black men should act in order for them to, be accepted?
I definitely feel like when it comes to boxes, I feel like there are too many boxes. I feel like it stems even more from black men, because I definitely do agree that, okay, yeah, it's just like, oh, like, this is how a black man's supposed to act, or this is how a black woman's supposed to act, and it's just like, oh, well, your black card is revoked because you don't do this, or you're black. And for me, it's just like, no disrespect to Americans, but it's just like, African Americans are the least black people of black people, in my opinion. Just because it's just like, culture-wise, if it's just like, oh, black culture, American black culture is completely, I don't want to say completely different, but it's just like, what is it based on? Like, it's pretty much just based on struggles that white people have forced on y'all that y'all just continue to perpetuate, and it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, well, if you don't do this, then you're not black enough, when in reality, like, I speak about this a lot because growing up in Jamaica, our motto is literally out of many one people. Like, it's black people, it's white people, it's Chinese people, it's Italian people, it's all cultures, it's Spanish people. We all speak the same. Yeah. Does that mean that we don't have our specific cultures? No. The Chinese Jamaican is very very proud of their Chinese culture, but they're also just as proud as of their Jamaican culture. Same thing with white people. Talk just as much as me, but and it's really no buts. It's really no difference, to be honest. So for me, I feel like the box is placed on everybody. It's just like, okay, just because you're black doesn't mean you have to speak in Ebonics. I know a lot of black people who don't know how to at all. Like really at all. Like could barely like almost like would sound like a white person asking like, oh, what does that mean? And in the same way, I know some white people that sound more Jamaican than a lot of like black people who you would see like, oh, that person looks Jamaican versus that person was just like, oh no. So definitely feel like within the whole community, because I feel like in the same way how black men are just kind of like, oh, those guys are pretty much just like, oh, like, you know, black women always do this and the third, or they're always like on me and always doing this and the third. In the same way, definitely like I feel like it's a lot of black women that are just kind of like, oh, like he's a nerd, like, oh, like he not hood enough, like, oh, he not this and the third, or whatever the case may be. But I feel like that also ties into products of your environment, because somebody from the suburbs, it's not necessarily, and let me not say that, because honestly, you can have somebody from the suburbs that wants somebody that's the hoodest of the hood. You might have a nigga that's from the hoodest of the hood, but he want a new. He just wants somebody who's...
What is it about girls wanting bad boys when a lot of these bad boys end up going to jail?
It's the protection.
It's the protection?
It's the protection. Well, for me personally, it's what it is, because at the end of the day, especially when it comes to dating black guys, just dealing with the black community, because let me not even go outside of the black community, just within the black community, it's just like, I cannot be with a guy where if we go out into the streets, just typical how guys are, and a guy is catcalling me, or a guy wants to smack me on the butt, or just do whatever guys typically do.
Okay.
I cannot be with somebody who I feel like will not protect me or like defend me in that moment. And 9 times out of 10, the pretty boy or the boy that's just like, oh, I'm chilling and I'm doing this and that, the third. 9 times out of 10, a situation like that happens and just kind of like, oh, we walk away and it's just like, oh, well, I didn't like that, this and third. It's just like, you're a man. Like, I'm not supposed to have to scream and yell and do all this to the guy. At the end of the day, if a situation like that happens, I shouldn't have to say anything, in my opinion. In my opinion, it should be like, him disrespecting me should be disrespecting you. But I feel like that mentality, or that like just overprotective, or that just like, oh, like no, like you wild and like you cannot do that. It tends to be from, you know, the bad guys, or the ones that are just like, oh, like hood, or whatever the case may be. Those just tend to be like, they have the protective mentality. They just want to, I don't know. Some people look at it as, I don't know.
So you. Me
personally, I just need to feel protected. Like,
okay,
with my height, I'm strong. You feel me? But some guys are just up here.
Yeah.
And I need to feel like whoever I'm with, I need to feel like if something were to happen.
So you rather a guy, let's say, you know, some guy disrespects you or something. You rather a guy who would like step in and say something, other than the guy who'd be like, yo, let's get away from this whole situation and move away. So you rather your man like,
because at the end of the day, for me, it's not always going to be situations where you can just walk away.
Okay.
It's you're gonna encounter people who are not gonna allow you to walk away, and then at that point, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna let them take me away, or are you gonna do something like?
Now, what if he's like, I'm about to go into my trunk and get my gun? What do you say in that moment?
It depends on how serious the situation is, like, because it's not gonna be all situations that are called for that, because at the end of the day, regardless of the fact that I'm being protected, I want you to protect me, I'm also trying to protect you. So if it's a situation that does not call for all of that, then I'm definitely not gonna like try to allow you to push all that just for the no, like, cause no, we don't need you get cat in case. We don't need you doing none of that for anything unnecessary. Like if it's a situation where that is what's being brought to us, then I expect nothing less. But I don't expect like, you know, any of that extra stuff just for like a simple altercation that could just be like handled like.
Okay. All right, let's talk about cheating. Do you have any cheating stories that you inflicted or that you endured?
Oh, Okay.
I always ask people in this moment to keep it 100.
Okay. I'm gonna say this because, before I say this, I'm gonna just do a disclaimer. For the first part of this part that I'm gonna say, I would say this is when I was much younger. Much younger. Like, this is not anything that I do now, and I'm gonna pretty much be speaking based off how I think now.
Okay.
So in the past, would I say I've cheated on anybody else? Yes. Have I ever cheated on somebody first? No. In my more immature periods where it's just more so I was just that hurt, or it was just more so I was just used to be very petty. So in my petty days, it would be more of a retaliation. Now for me, it would never be a retaliation, I'm going to get back with you. It would more so be okay, you cheated on me and I know about it. So I'm going to probably do something that's going to hurt you. I'm going to find whatever it is. If I'm with you, I already know what buttons to press. So if you did something, which for me, that's a huge thing, and anybody who's dating me would know that. So if that's what you had done, and I decided to retaliate, and I decided to cheat, it would always be retaliation in the past, but then it would never be, I cheated, you cheated on me, and I cheated on you, let's get back together. It's just no.
It's the moment you cheat,
it's just you cheated, and I really just did this. And half the time, honestly, it may be a bad thing. I almost most of the times I never really let it know what I do know, but I always have my receipts. So it's just more so then when it's tried to be brought to me, oh, well, what's this that you did? And it's just here you go, and I'm out. Just so you see, I match energy. If this is what we're doing, all you gotta do is say it, and we can match that energy. Now, the me that I am now, I'm just
before we get to that, what's one situation where you cheated on a guy where you really felt bad? Even though this guy did some shitty shit, me paying him back this way, I didn't feel resolved from it.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never felt bad.
Okay.
I've never felt bad only because when I say I've been done the dirtiest of the ways, I've never done anything in comparison to anything that anybody has done to me. So for me, it's.
Has it ever been with somebody he knows?
Let me tell you something. I honestly have never even cheated on a guy before. If I'm really being honest, I've never cheated on a guy. Have I? I can't recall ever cheating on a guy, to be honest. I really can't. But the situation I can remember cheating on a girl with was more so. She was wilding. She was wilding. She pretty much
Oh, you cheated on the girl with a girl?
No, I cheated on the girl with an ex-boyfriend from back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So so yeah, it was just mind you, like I said, I'm pansexual. This is how I got to that point. People have always questioned me you don't date always the cutest person, or you don't always date the tallest person. Height, looks, if I mess with your personality at the end of the day, really and truly all of that will just come. If I like you, I'm just gonna like you regardless because your personality is just gonna speak to me first. So it's been situations like that where it's just okay, cool, I mess with you, we going this and the third on that, and then the situation was just this girl. It was a friend group of us, and the girl decided that it was another girl in the friend group.
Yeah.
That she had liked prior. They went to the same high school. Mm-hmm. And it got to this point where now they were in college, they no longer they was also in the same friend group. I ended up dating this girl. Now the other girl who she used to like in high school, of course sees the good treatment, oh, you're getting this, oh, you're getting that. And she's oh, now I like you. You're not gonna get the same treatment, but okay. So it's just it gets to that point, it's just oh, that's a little thing, and it's just okay, well, what is going on? I don't need to be here for this. At the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, say that, and then I will go my ways. But this back and forth, and if we're in the same friend group, this is beyond disrespectful. And it got to a point where I just kept hearing stuff, and it was just okay. I remember I went back home for Christmas break. And I honestly, I want to say this is probably the only time I cheated. To be honest, when I speak about being younger, I can't recall cheating on anybody else before this. Like, this was, like, the first time I did, and that's how dirty I felt like I was done. Mm-hmm. And I went home, and it was just kind of like, why not? Like, and this is not somebody who was just, like, kind of, like, out of the wind. This is somebody who, like, we're still cool. Like, this is, like, probably, like, one of the only ex-boyfriends I would say I have that we generally have, like, a friendship. Like, generally, like, wish him all the best. Like, it's always the same way. It's just like, oh, what you doing in your life? What you doing in your life? Oh, like, you know, cool, this and the third. It's always that. So, pretty much a situation like that, and I got back, and I pretty much just dubbed it. Like, it was just kind of like...
Did you tell her?
Did I tell her? I don't think I did. Because when we had got back, I believe we were kind of on a break-ish. It was just kind of like, oh, let me prove myself, let me do this and third. It's like, okay, whatever, do what you do. And then it got to a point where I was just like, yeah, no. And then I had messed with somebody. When I got back to Howard's campus, I had messed with somebody else for the first time. And then that spread like wildfire. Like, spread way more than, like, I anticipated it to. And it was just kind of like, I remember she just asked me, she was like, oh, did you so-and-so? And I was like, yeah. And then that was kind of like the end of her attachment. It was just kind of like, she felt some type of way, I guess. I don't know why. Because that don't make no sense, but that's the only time I inflicted like anything like that. Now, it's too many stories for the other way around, but like how I am now, it's just like I'm not gonna stoop to your level. I'm not gonna mess up, dirty my character just to get back at you. Like, at the end of the day, if that's the energy that you want to portray, I'm gonna take noted and I'm gonna move on, and that's just gonna be that. And it's just like, it's get to a point where it's just like, no, like, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to, like, deal with, that's fine. Like, but I'm not going to match your energy. I'm not going to do any of that. And, like, I knew that I grew because there was a lot of opportunities for me to do things like that. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, no. Yeah. Like, that's not me. Like, I'm not going to, like, do that just for the small feeling of, like, oh, feeling like I got you. And in reality, like, I just did something that I probably wouldn't have did if I wasn't feeling all this emotion. So it's just like, yeah, no, like, I'm cool off you. You won't get this energy from me anymore. It's just like, I'm good for, like, cutting niggas off from my presence, because I feel like my presence and my energy is a blessing. It's always good vibes. Yeah. So if you keep bringing negative energy, you will just get barred from this good energy. And it's just like, okay, keep that away from me.
What do you do after bad sex?
Bad sex. Whew. Should I be candid with this?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, well, in reality, I'm not gonna lie. At the end of the day, I feel like this is just the most honest answer I could give. In reality, after bad sex, I'm probably gonna masturbate, because you didn't finish what you started, so somebody's got to do it. And that's pretty much what it is. And then it kind of just be like a little mental note, like, it's a no for me, dog. Like,
yeah.
No.
and speaking about, you know, being pansexual, so you can date a bisexual man?
Oh, definitely. That's actually like an interesting question for me, because I've been challenging all my friends like around me. Like, I honestly just be asking, like, you know, would you date a bisexual man? Like, just to like start a conversation, because I feel like that's one thing, especially when I used to identify as bisexual, that was one thing I hated, like the disparity between like, oh, like, you're fine with the bisexual female, but you're not with the bisexual male. What's the difference? Yeah. Like, so definitely, I feel like I could.
Okay. What's something that you're working on yourself right now to change?
Definitely am going through a period right now where I'm just like big on creating my own financial stability, just like multiple streams of income, trying to become no longer depending on my parents, like, at all, to be honest. Just trying to get to a point where I can really like fully be on my own and like be really independent and just get what I want to get done. And so that kind of in turn comes with like Forex. Like, I've definitely been trying to get on my investor type time, because I feel like everybody should be trading. Hashtag you should be trading. Hashtag she trades. That's just that. Like, you really should be, because at the end of the day, the world is changing. And like I said, I'm big on adapting, survival of the fittest, cryptocurrency, all of it, like, you might as well just get involved now and don't be late to the bandwagon. Because if you're late, you would have missed out on a chance to be a millionaire or a billionaire.
Yeah.
Just catching up late to the trend. Not really a trend, but catching up late to the lifestyle. Because that's really what it is. At the end of the day, it's 22-year-olds, 21-year-olds that I'm looking up to. That's just like, wow, like, you're a millionaire. You're my age. Like,
yeah.
I would be dumb to not see this as an opportunity, especially with the fact that people are just trying to push this opportunity to you. Nobody's being like trying to be stingy with it, keep it to themselves. It's just like, I feel like it's a situation right now where people think it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And sometimes some things are good enough to be true. Sometimes some things they just really are.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's really like the main thing. Like, people tend to just be like, I mean, it just don't make sense. But it really do. This is what white people have been doing for years. This is what companies. This is what banks do with your money that you think you have in your account that you really don't. You just seeing zeros, but they're trading it and multiplying it and giving you barely anything.
Yeah. Do you think your vote counts or not?
Definitely. I feel like all votes count. I feel like the only way your vote doesn't count is if you don't vote.
Okay. So now this question is, it doesn't matter if you believe in gender roles or if you're a feminist, right? Mm-hmm. Give me like 3 expectations you have of any man being a man.
Of any man being a man, I expect them to, at all times, respect and protect any female in the room, whether white, black, it doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, if it's a female in the room, no age, it doesn't matter the age, gender, anything. It doesn't matter. Like, whatever they present as, like, I feel like it's your role to be a protector and be respectful of just females in your environment. What else would I say?
So that's like 2, right? Respect, protect.
Definitely respect and protect.
And what's the last one?
I feel like the last one, take care of your children. Take care of your kids. Period. Period. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, if you can't pull out, the least you can do is take care of your kids. Like, because which one is easier? Pick one. Pick one. Because that was, like, one of the biggest, like, I feel like, culture shocks when I came to, the DMV or America after, like, leaving for Jamaica. It's not, like, deadbeat dads or the black father being an absentee. It's not something that I was used to hearing growing up, used to seeing growing up. Like, my mom was raised by just her dad. Like, all her siblings, just their dad. Like, I've seen young guys, like, their girlfriend gets pregnant. It's no question. And not to say I'm not pro-choice, because you can, at the end of the day, if you're not prepared for that situation, you do what you do. But, you feel me, it's definitely not a situation where guys, like, forcing abortions or playing B is down anybody's throat. It's just kind of like, okay, more so, like, I will get out of school. I will take care of my kid. Like, you get what I'm saying? So just coming here, and I really, like, got hip to pretty much, like, just the racial disparity in, like, the justice system and pretty much how that plays a role in the black family, and just pretty much how, like, so many absentee fathers are, like, in jail over, like, grams and dime bags, when it's white people over here making billions of dollars off of the same thing that you have this man in jail for pretty much all his life. So definitely take care of your kids and respect and protect women.
Yeah. If you could create one commandment to hold the black community accountable, what would that commandment be?
Support each other.
Okay.
It needs to be unwavered support. In the same way how we support everybody else, I feel like black people are so quick to support another luxury brand. And it's just like, okay, let me support them because it's just like they look established, this and the third. But it's just like, okay, why not keep that dollar black? Like, why not support somebody black? Why not support this? Because at the end of the day, everybody has to get a start somewhere. And I feel like as a people, that's one thing we have to learn from every other culture, every other people. Like, that togetherness and that unwavered support to each other, I feel like we give that when it benefits us. Support black-owned businesses because Black Lives Matter, this and the third, and you're posting all this. But are you buying black-owned? Not really. You're just reposting everything that everybody's posting. Or you're doing your own research and trying to see, okay, I order from Amazon all the time. Like, okay, even if I'm going to order from Amazon, what are the black-owned businesses on Amazon? Am I going to support, like, all these other things, or can I support? And honestly, my biggest thing is a lot of black-owned businesses are cheaper, or the cheaper alternative. Yeah. But we refuse to just give them the attention because in reality, the product is better, it's cheaper, but we still want to go with the white name or the Johnson and Johnson or the this and that. And it's just like, why? Yeah. It makes no sense. So I feel like if it's one thing that would help us, it's literally just like unwavered support. That's it. Like just support.
Would you rather choose a partner, and you got to choose one? So it's like the lesser evil type of thing. Okay. Would you rather choose a partner who has an affair behind your back, or a partner who sleeps around here and there? And why?
I feel like that is not that hard because for me, I guess if I had to choose, I'm going to choose definitely somebody that sleeps around because I feel like I'd be more susceptible to a different person, like you doing like whatever, like just sleeping around with like random people more so than like one person, because then it's just like it's damn near a love triangle. Like it's damn near like you have two wives or two girlfriends. It's like, yeah, that's just like really full on commitment to somebody else. Like for you to like really whole ass have an affair, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could deal with that at all.
Yeah. How transparent, 1 to 10, how transparent do you think you have been about this whole interview?
I was completely transparent.
1 to 10, give yourself a number. A 10?
Definitely a 10.
Okay.
Shorty's a 10.
All right. If you had anything to say to black men right now, what would you say to black men?
Black men.
Oh, Lord.
I feel like, self-analyzation is key, I feel like, with black men. I feel like if it's anything that I should say, for anything that you would question when it comes to somebody else saying towards you, don't just be quick to defend yourself. Don't be quick to be defensive. Question why somebody's saying that. Do some self-analyzation and like really try and evolve as a person. Try and evolve as a people. Black men need to be known for something other than the typical things they're known for, which in my opinion is just like, black men are so talented. Like that's the thing for me. Like I love seeing black men on my timeline taking care of their sons. I love seeing black men just like being able to be completely free no matter how they are, doing ballet, doing whatever the case may be. I feel like black men, you really just need to stop caring what everybody else thinks about you. Because at the end of the day, I feel like it all comes down to this self-hate that you have for yourself. And this is not to say that it just popped up out of nowhere, because you are a product of your environment. If everybody's always taught you like, oh, like these people hate you, people do this, people do that, in a sense, I can see why it's just like, oh, like, you know, you move a certain way, this and third, but love yourself. Do what you love. Don't try to conform to what society wants you to be. Whatever it is that you like, whatever it is that you do, don't conform to what anybody else wants you to be, because somebody created a box, somebody created a circle. Like, who's to say you can't create your own shape? Just do what it is that you want to do, whatever makes you happy, because at the end of the day, that's what everybody else is doing. Everybody just wants to be happy, and until you get to a point where you're just doing what makes you happy and not caring what everybody else's expectations are of you and holding everybody else to another expectation, hold yourself to the expectation that you just want to be happy. And I feel like that's just it. I feel like black women, oh, we're the angry black women, but I feel like black men, acknowledge your emotions. Really, just acknowledge your emotions, and I feel like that will just take you down the journey to success. Acknowledge your emotions, take them for what they are, and learn how to deal with them. And I feel like that would be something that would be very helpful to black men. Like, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to cry. Like, I feel like for years and years, it's been so long, people are saying, like, okay, it's okay for boys to cry. I feel like it's clearly not. They clearly don't understand that it genuinely is okay for you to cry now. Like, it's not even just now. You should be able to cry. Anybody could cry. Let it out. I'm a crier. I'm surprised I haven't cried this whole time. I'm very proud of myself for that because I've really been trying to like just keep it intact.
Yeah.
But Black men, definitely take hold of your emotions, acknowledge them, care for them. Treat them just like you would treat your child's or your girlfriends or your wives or whoever, you know? They should be sacred.
That's dope. And, thanks for coming.
No problem.
I love, when I hit people up and, they come and they share their stories, I feel like everybody got something to say,
For sure.
So I don't want to just always get the expert who prepare everything that they're going to say and they always promoting a market and something, you know what I mean? So I like to get the ordinary person to come and really, because most of us are the ones who create thoughts, you know what I mean? And sometimes people hit me up, they're like, yo, why you bring this person on? What the fuck are they talking? I'm like, a lot of people think like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like you never know who you're going to reach out to.
Yeah. So we definitely, should keep this going. I like to bring people back so they can speak about, what's going on in their lives and the development of their lives, you know what I'm saying? And, you got your own platform, so definitely, keep working, keep being creative.
I appreciate it. I definitely love the platform. Definitely watched a couple of videos. We were really in tune to. I was like, oh my God. I followed this page for a minute, but I really never have been on here, like, really just watching stuff. Like, definitely like it. Definitely a vibe.
All right. All right, until next time. Peace.
Okay.
Okay, how?